Considering its tiny size and relatively inexpensive price tag, it makes sense that lots of my friends are using Mac Minis for their home theater setup. I love that idea, but personally, I'd want to use it for lots of other applications too, so maxing out the RAM is probably a good idea. And of course, I'm not going to let the fact that there are no visible screws keep me from doing that repair myself, and my hope is that after this video, you won't either. Hi, I'm MJ with iFixit, and today I'm going to show you how to replace the RAM in a Core Duo Mac Mini. This video is a great overview of the process, but of course, when you're upgrading your RAM, you'll want to make sure to follow the step-by-step instructions and the repair guide on our site. That all being said, I'm going to get my parts and tools together so I can get started. For this repair, you're going to need a set of small tweezers, a plastic spudger, a Phillips 00 screwdriver. Typically, I would use a bit from one of our bit driver kits, but because some of these screws are kind of difficult to access, I would recommend using a dedicated driver instead. And of course, you're gonna need something to pry open your Mac Mini. So if you've got a putty knife laying around, you can file down the edge of that and it'll work fine. I'm going to use a tool called an iSesamo, which is designed specifically for opening up electronics, so it's a little more forgiving than a putty knife, and that means it'll probably cause less cosmetic damage when you're opening up your machine. So if you're concerned about cosmetic damage, I would go for the iSesamo. To get started, I'm going to flip the Mac Mini over so that the back is facing me, and then I'm going to use my iSesamo to start prying away the aluminum case from the bottom housing. I'm going to start back near this corner, and it might require a little more force than you're comfortable with. As soon as I get that part up, I'm just going to start going around the edge and lifting the rest of the edges up. Once all the edges are lifted up and you've got a nice gap between the bottom housing and the aluminum case, you're going to flip the Mac Mini over again, and the aluminum case should just lift up and off. At this point, you can do a little dance because with the top case off, we're actually done with the hardest part. The next thing we're going to do is remove the internal frame, which includes the optical drive, from the housing. And to start, we're going to remove the airport antenna by squeezing these two little posts and lifting it off. You don't want to squeeze too hard because you might break the posts. So be gentle. Now, the antenna is still attached to the computer, so don't go yanking it off, but we can just kind of drape it over to the side for now. The next thing we're going to work on is disconnecting the audio board cable and the hard drive thermal sensor cable. The audio board cable is a standard ZIF style connector, so once the locking mechanism is lifted up, the cable just comes right out. The hard drive thermal sensor cable is a little trickier because it's a pretty small connector and it's in a tight spot. So we're going to use our tweezers to grasp the connector, not the wires, and then pull it straight up and out. It might be useful if you use your spudger to kind of guide the connector out of its socket. Now that those cables are disconnected, we can get to work on the 4 screws that are holding the frame in place. These screws are kind of difficult to access, so this is where having a dedicated driver comes in handy, especially one that's magnetized. With those screws out, the frame should just lift up and out pretty easily. Slow and steady is good though, because you don't want to snag any cables on the way out. With the frame out of the way, we can see the RAM, and all we've got to do is unlock and remove the existing chips and replace them with our new ones. Of course, you can find all of the parts and tools for this and many other repairs at iFixit.com. And if you run into any problems doing your repairs, there are lots of solutions in the Mac Mini Repair Guide on our site. If you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/iFixit. Thanks for watching and happy repairing!